bills that I might paste on the vision board. Those dollar bills or $50 bills or $10 bills signify the amount of money that I need to get to Italy. And
yes, so this would be into the action. So you just put that picture of the dollar bill close to the action.
Okay. All right. Okay, continue.
Okay, so the recognize, the act. Now the C is care about. Care about your family, your business, every detail, your receptionist, the way you're talking to people, the way you dress, your branding, your image. It's really, really important for the balance in your life and being calm inside yourself and being serene, taking care of yourself. You don't want to burn you out. So it's really important in the C to choose, like, let's say for Italy, the care about could be something about maybe caring about your wardrobe. Maybe you need to buy one piece of wardrobe to care about yourself. Something that will please you, that will like make you feel good and say, hey, this piece of clothing in my wardrobe is just for Italy. So you care about a little detail that will remind you all the time that you want to go to Italy.
Got it. Beautiful. Okay.
That can be also taking care of your kids or your spouse, and be sure that everybody is happy with it, and everybody is excited that if they go with you.
Exactly.
So be sure that you're taking care of all the details from A to Z.
Beautiful. Okay.
Now the I is empower. This is a word that they invent, which means three things: inspire, empower, and go inside yourself and discover your own power. And the reason that I invented that word, as you can see, I have a strong French-Canadian accent, and in 2007 I barely spoke English. So when I started to build my coaching and my speaking program, I said, okay, I want to mean those three things, and because of inspire and power always sound the same, I said I will invent a word, and hopefully it will be in the dictionary one day. But it's really to recognize, to remember to people, to discover what is your own power, what is your mission, what is your passion, and how you attain that. Like for you to Italy, that meditate 5 minutes a day and just feeling and just bringing into your subconscious and your conscious all kind of pictures and video from Italy to really help your five senses, the seeing, the hearing, the speaking, the touching, and the smelling. You bring all those 5 elements into that medium. Because more you activate those senses, more you are able to realize your dream, and faster. And like me, I love the South, and I wanted to come in California. So finally in 2007, I realized things, starting to travel 21 states, 10,000 miles on my RV, and came in California. But on my vision board, I was putting some sun low on the vision board to be sure that I am smelling that like I am in California under the sun.
Okay, let me go back to I is empower, which consists of 3 words in itself: inspire, empower, and what's the other word?
And go inside yourself and discover your power, like your inner power.
Oh, okay. So it's inspire, empower, and inner power.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, going inside yourself. And that's, in terms of that journey, going inside yourself relates to that which you do best, that which you love to do, that which you really would do all day. And I'm not talking about looking at TV I'm talking about that which rewards the individual, because TV is an escape. So if there's something that they like to do, making biscuits or making cakes or crocheting or something on a higher level of creating, that reflects an inner power, because they're going to do it very well. And going into that's introspection, going into oneself and says, what am I really good at? That's going into the inner power piece, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Like meditation, reading books, cooking, inventing, painting, go and see the sunset. It can be as simple as that, or just play in your garden. So anything that brings you to that higher vibration and really helping you to elevate yourself into a higher energy.
Beautiful. Now we move to the N.
Yes, and then never give up. I will do a little story of mine. The first 25 years of my life, I wanted to commit suicide. Today, people look at my life and my coaching program, my speaking, and all that. They said, oh, my God, you have such a great and beautiful life, but it was not always like that. I wanted to commit suicide for the first 25 years, wanted to give up. I wanted to die because I was sad and I was mad and I was never happy. Even if I had everything in life, I was good at sports, good at music, good parents, nothing to complain, but I was complaining all the time. And I always said at 25 years old, if it's not better, I will kill myself. And 7 days before my birthday, I got sick. I got a pneumonia, which means you don't want to live. You don't want to breathe, and you don't want to be on earth. And I almost committed suicide that night. But I got a TV show that was against suicide, and she said, you can do it, but before, you need to call at least one friend.
No, wait a minute. Nadine.
I called my mom.
Nadine, just say that again. You were on the verge of suicide. Just repeat that.
Yeah, I was on the verge of suicide, but the woman on TV, there was a TV show about suicide, and she said, you could suicide, but at least you need to call a friend before. You owe that to yourself.
Wow.
And I called my mom at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and she really listened to me without judging me, without telling me I was good, and she just listened to me. And my message to the world, my mission, the work that I'm doing, everything that I do right now is to really help people to never give up and to really continue in life and remember that song. When you're down and trouble and you need some loving care and nothing's going right. You've got a friend, oh yeah. You've got a friend, yeah.
Go ahead, Nadine. Go ahead. We're going to bring you into New York.
Say it again?
I said we're going to bring you into New York City.
Yes, I hope so. I'm always looking forward to a speaking event over there. I never visit New York, so I want to go.
Well, I tell you, with your spirit, you should be able to ward off the demons that are proliferating throughout the society. But we're not going to get into that. The N, once again, the N in the racing relates to the end part of that.
The N is never give up.
Never give up.
My story against suicide, that's why I'm doing what I do. And I do leadership training. I even bring people at the racetrack. They can go on a bike at 150 miles per hour and learn about business and about mindset and having that champion mindset. And all I do now, I'm retired. I can just be on the beach, but about helping people to never give up and remember, everybody, you've got a friend somewhere, somehow, And there are people like me who have different coaching programs and different ways to help you realize your dream. And I really wish that people never give up.
Now, the G
is get it done. Get the little extra horsepower, put some racing fuel in your motorcycle, and just do that extra step. Because average people, they are just doing the average action. The successful people, they are doing extra action. If you are doing 10 phone calls for your business every week, just need to do 11 or 12. Not 20, just 11 or 12. If you are playing with your kids half an hour a week, maybe try to do that twice a week. Always do an extra step. What can you do to really put some racing fuel into your life?
Nadine, what is the website that folks can go to? Because this interview with you is to introduce the subject, and it's actually requiring more interviews with you. But what is most important is that the introduction allows folks to begin to do the research, and doing that research at your website. So what is the website that they should go to?
Yeah, the people should go to NadineCoaching.com. This is one of my pages on my website to really help you to focus on different aspects of your life. You can have access to that racing system that I just shared with you. You just sign up for the newsletter, and everybody can have that racing system in a 1-hour interview that you can really start to work on your own dreams today. Not next week, not tomorrow. Today you can have your racing system right away. It's free. Everybody is welcome to go to NadineCoaching.com.
Right.
And Nadine, it's NADINE coaching.com.
NADINE coaching.com. We have time for a call or two. The telephone number is 212-650-6903. You'll be on the air with Miss Nadine Lajoie. And she is, we're speaking to you in Canada?
No, I am in California now. I'm living in California, but I'm traveling a lot. I just came back from Africa and India last year, and I'm going back to Africa next month to coach some clients and be a consultant over there.
All right, hold on a second. And God bless you on the air. Your question, please.
Hi, Nadine. I wanted to know, how do you spell your last name?
Lajoie. It's like Larry, A like apple, J like John, O like olive, I like an E.
It's LAJOIE.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How can I help you?
She just needed your contact information. That's what she needed.
Okay.
Now, what we need before we conclude is and how is we're using Italy. How is that vision board? What's the first steps? I get Italy. I get a picture of Italy. I cut out some word. I cut out a word from let's say a travel magazine that says Italy, and I cut out a picture of an airline that goes to Italy. I may have a picture of a desired hotel or resort in Italy. That's going to go on. That's part of my vision board. Another part of my vision board is that's the destination vision board. Another part of my vision board is going to reflect something personally of me and my person, a photo of myself, maybe with my hands holding bags, travel bags to get on, go on this trip. Just play that out for us.
Yes, and the care about, if you are bringing your family, maybe you can get a picture of all your family, and you kind of just cut those pictures and you just do a collage and you put yourself like in front of a hotel in Italy or something.
Right.
The Empower is really a picture of you either meditating or playing with your garden or looking for a sunset, like something that's really empower you and really inspire you. Give up is thinking a challenge for most. The challenges usually are more time, usually.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe in the never give up, just put a picture of the money there, or of we can put a picture of a clock,
Right.
And the get it done would be really something about doing an extra step. So how you can make more money, or how can you make more clients? Maybe you can do a view and a few of you showing you that you need to clients and more job in your pocket to really realize that dream. We do that for the two other ones, so you'll have at least 18 pictures, vision board. And there is another exercise from my website, needingcoaching.com, and it's a 12-trimester quarter plan, and you will be able to map out and to really divided all you can in the next 36 months to go to Italy. And that's what I do when I coach people. I really help people to bring that together. And when we go on my racetrack too, it's really a 2D intensive to really work on that vision board.
Hold on while we pause for station identification. This is The Communicators. Our guest online is Miss Nadine Lajoie, and she is speaking with us from California. She's a native of Canada, and the station that you're hearing this interview on is...
You're listening to WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem.
And there's another guest scheduled, and they haven't arrived yet, so we're going to take this time to do some finishing touches on this particular interview, first interview with Nadine. Nadine, in terms of your epiphany, your coming to the precipice, the edge of a cliff, so to speak, and being pulled back, that in itself was spiritual, because you could have been on another channel and been looking at some other program, but you were looking at that particular program. Did you ever look into that occurrence and how that shaped up?
And you know what is, I watch TV and I don't have time. And that night, I don't know what happened, just TV, and that's incidents in life. And in my book, Win the Race of Life, I have a chapter about that. Life, and I share with people different activities like that happen, that there is always somebody guiding us, even if you call it God or Allah or Buddha. I don't care what is your inner and your upper power, but it's really reality. We are kind of in the right direction. We are there to be able to listen.
The point is, and I'm playing it back, what you said is that there is a force that's with the individual. And not just with the individual, but each individual, each person has a gift to share with the world, regardless of their race, their income, their education level, or their age. They have a gift to share with the world, and that gift came into existence, and these are my words, when they were born. They have a gift. None of us are here for no reason at all. We get waylaid on the road of life by, let's say, environment, or a lot of distraction. Could be sex, it could be drugs, it could be overeating, could be just plain depression and feeling that we're lonely and that we're worthless because there are not enough people around us to affirm us that we are valuable, and that force that's around us actually keeps people alive who we would, as spectators, look at them and say they're wasting their lives, but They're being kept alive because of a gift that they have yet to share with the world. That's my statement, your feedback.
Yes, and I really agree with you. But like in my case, again, for the first 25 years of my life, I was just going through life without knowing that I had that power, without even believing that there was such a power. And without my life, I would have probably died by myself or by killing myself. But that moment, and that happens a lot to people, they need to get there or illness or an accident to kind of really waking up and say, oh my God, I am on her doing this or doing something. So what should I do to do that? And when you get that power, that's where you're allowed to be hidden and enlightened, and you really feel that presence of the power source to really put on your dreams. Even if it's not all easy, you really need to don't give up and help other people on the planet.
And that last part, don't give up and help other people on the planet. We hear that phrase bandied about very loosely, community service. But within that, if we do service to others, for others, there is something that happens that is not taking away our power, but giving power. Your playback.
Yeah, and an example, one of my clients, he almost died I don't know how many times, and I told him, I said, don't you understand they don't want you up there because you didn't deal and discover your own mission. And finally 2 months later he came back to me and said, yeah, okay, now I know my mission, and now he's helping people to build like a dialysis center, and he would build something like 25 dialysis center. He got financing for 150 million, and he said it's my fault because I made him think about what is his mission and why he is on Earth, and why, and many times that he almost died, he didn't die. It's because he worked in an assignment on this planet in this life.
Hold on, Nadine. God bless you. On the air with Nadine Lajoie.
It's a pleasure. And Lady Nadine, I have renamed you. Lady Nadine, I think that, my name is Jay Smiley. I think that it is an honor and a pleasure to be on air with you. I have no question. I want to make a general statement. Folks should have been breaking their neck to hear about the power of God. That's my statement.
Okay. All right. Thank you, my brother. The power of God as manifested in life itself. The water we drink. I mean, how magnificent is that in terms of a life-giving source for us each day, and we did not create it. It was here when we came. In fact, we were born in water. And the telephone number here is 212-650-6903. The guest schedule for this segment is not here, so we have a few more minutes with Nadine, and her website is www.nadinecoaching.com. Nadine, Nadine. We're talking about vision board. Now, when you look at the movie Secret, it's alluded to in one of the segments by a man. He's talking about he gets into his new home and he's unpacking, and here he unpacks, so his child brings him it's known as a vision board or wheel of fortune, and it goes by different names, but it is the same thing. That when he unpacks it and he looks at it, it actually reflects that which he is experiencing in his new home, and all of the other attendant things that have gone with his getting the new home. So that's in the movie The Secret. And Catherine Ponder, Ponder, she also gives a segment in her books on, one of her books on the, quote, Wheel of Fortune. And talk about the dynamic of having a visual. See, people say, well, I just put a picture up. But if they have this visual of where they want to go, their hopes and dreams, it's a goal now. The picture Have you ever gotten into what it does to the mind? What happens? That dynamic of looking at something and then it comes to being.
Oh yes, and on top of the vision board, I remember like in 2003 when I started to do a dream book, which is more you put different action and different goals you want, and you put picture and you describe like really really in details. And I put the picture of the bike, like the R6 2003, and I just started motorcycle riding in one. And for me, that was a dream, maybe in a couple of years. And finally, it ended up like within 6 months, I had the opportunity to buy the same color, exactly the same picture that I put in my dream book. And again, the dream board is more visual and a subconscious, and I like it when it's interactive with the pins for all the action. Mm-hmm. But if you want to go a step further, and I explain that too on my website for the giveaway that I'm giving to people, it's really about the dream book, different pages in a book, and you describe. If you want a house, if you want the wall being white or pink, you put that. You put all the description. If you have a piano and which color will be the carpet, and you put even more picture in the dream book, which is a little bit deeper than the vision board.
So I'm making up in vision board is one piece, and another technique is to develop a dream book, and that dream book is actually what I want and a narrative. It's the kind of things that we would visualize that children daydream. Children do this. They say, when I grow up, I'm going to have, and they go into the whole picture, the whole wording, the pool in the back, the car, the type of car, the upholstery. They go into it, and that's the narrative that I'm talking about. So the dream book would have what I'm visioning for myself for the future, the near future and the distant future, and it's more detail with words, writing that goes along with it. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, and when you put your writing on, it just transfers from your physical to even more physical, because now everybody can even read it if you want the people to read it. And you need to write in the present tense, like, thank you very much for the nice, beautiful $22 million house. And when I enter to my house, there is a piano on the left, and there is a campfire on a fire pit on the right, and my walls are green, and my carpet are beige. Like, you describe everything, and when you go up to the kitchen, so more you describe, it comes a novel or a roman into that. And that really brings even more emotion, even more of yourself. But you write in the present tense, and that's so funny you're talking about it. Because why, as parents, I'm not a parent, by the way, but why those kids, we kind of kill their dreams all the time. When I'm going to speak to different schools, I'm crying every time that I get a testimonial. Because kids at 12 years old, 8 years old, 17 years old, I have that comment all the time. Thank you very much for making me believe that I can have a dream, that I can realize my dream, that it's okay to have a dream. You make me smile. You put a smile on my face because my parents doesn't believe in me. My teacher told me that I will never be able to be successful. And I am a girl from a farm. My dad was a farmer, and I always said I will be an artist. I will be on stage, I will speak, I will travel the world. Everybody were laughing at me, discouraging me. And at 2 years old, when Celine Dion came to sing for the Pope in Montreal, I was there, and I was hoping she would be sick so I can raise my hand and I can go sing for the Pope. This was my dreams that were kind of buried underneath a bunch of stuff. And I just rediscovered my dream again after 25 years old, when I rediscovered my power, that I can realize everything I want in life. And this is not our our means to discourage any kids, anybody about their dream. Our mission in life is always to encourage them, maybe give them some tools, some strategies to do that, or some things to think about, but don't project your fears into others people's dreams because you didn't realize yours. It's your problem, it's not theirs.
Wow. Telephone number 212. Okay, I'm getting ready to go to another call. Nadine, this is wow. This I'm sounding like Brother Ricky Young in the morning when he does a motivational show. Brother Ricky Young, what's in your hand? Saturday, Sunday morning and Friday morning, and when the guest says something profound, he says, "Wow." Well, I'm saying wow as we conclude this first interview with you, Nadine. I want to thank you very much. Once again, your website is www.nadinecoaching.com. Now, there are a lot of people out here who do not have access to internet, and there are those of you who are listening to the show who have access to internet. What you do is get that information, print out what you can, and share that with others, and begin the process. And then when we have Nadine back again on either this show, The Communicators, or Respectful Life, then you can begin to ask informed questions. But in the meantime, take that action step and start now. And even if it's just one picture that you put on a board, do that, and you will be in good shape. Nadine, may God continue to bless you, your family, and we look forward to speaking with you again in February sometime.
Yes, thank you very much. And for people who are in the car, you can text 55678. So it's easy, 55678, and you just type race 1, the number 1, race, and the number 1, and you will be able to have access to that racing map too directly from your phone.
Okay. All right, beautiful, Nadine. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye now. And moving right along, ladies and gentlemen, our second guest is here. And preparing you for our guests in the second half of the show, a young man in Philadelphia was stopped and searched by the Philadelphia police, and they took the opportunity to pull on his genitals to the extent where he had to have an emergency operation. The lawyer, his mom, and the head of the school will be our guests at 2 o'clock, and we have other guests coming in at 2:30. In the meantime, we're going to an issue that's occurring right now in New York City and possibly other places, but we're dealing with New York City. Our guest in studio is Brother Fahim, and Brother Fahim is a member of the Communicator team, and some of you may have seen pictures of him as it relates to tenant action at the Schaumburg Towers. Brother Fahim, assalamu alaikum. God bless you. Wait a minute. You was over here. Wait a minute. What mic are you on, black man?
4.
That's number 4?
Yep.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Playing musical chairs, right?
Yes, sir. God bless you, my brother. Thank you for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, Fahim was with us by virtue of Brother Wali and Brother Lukman Abdul Malik years ago. A young man, he and his brother are techno whizzes. You understand? They were the internet before we even looked at it. But Brother Fahim, share with us what the tenants over at the Schaumburg have been hit with in the, I think it was started September, somewhere the latter part of 2013.
It started in July. Okay, so what we're facing right now is HPD, Housing Preservation and Development, issues what they call vouchers for people who are low income, and they supplement their rent if they can't pay the rent. We were formerly Mitchell Lama. We came out and the rents went up. So a lot of people could not afford the new rent. So the HPD stepped up and said, we're going to offer you guys vouchers. And this is citywide. In July, they sent out letters about a federal sequester of funds related to the housing budget, a shortfall of $35 million, they said. We're $35 million short because the government decided not to release. They couldn't agree on releasing the funds. So they said we have to make some cuts. And they had options on making cuts. Some of them were reduction in staff, reduction in certain redundancies and duplication of services. And one of the options was to downsize the voucher recipients to a smaller apartment. So what that means is they changed, and they chose this option. They changed the residency guidelines. So in the past, it was if you had a son and a daughter and they were of a certain age, they couldn't be in the same room. If you were a single parent and you had a son and a daughter, you would be entitled to a 3-bedroom apartment. And that changed. So now what they're saying is they don't care if you have a son and a daughter, and they don't care if you're a single parent. You're only entitled to a 2-bedroom apartment, and one of the people would have to sleep in the living room. So the living room is considered a bedroom. With that, the problem that we face in Schaumburg, which is in many developments, is we don't have an eat-in kitchen. It's a very small kitchen. It's very small. I would say our space to move in our kitchen is like maybe 3 feet wide, 8 feet deep. And we have to have our dining room and living room in one. So if you're telling us that we have to sleep in the living room, someone has to use the living room as a bedroom, then we also use it as a dining room. So it's like 3 purposes to this room. We don't agree with the solution that they came up with, so we decided to fight it.
The downsizing, where they move someone from a 2-bedroom into a 1-bedroom, when they vacate that apartment, what happens?
When they vacate, first of all, they receive a letter. 2 letters, one from HPD, one from management. And the letter basically states you have X amount of days. We have identified you as a person being overhoused, and you have X amount of days to sign this letter and accept the downsize. And then they tell you when the apartment is available, you need to, approve the apartment and you will be moved. And if you don't do it, you can lose your entire voucher. So they put you in a catch-22. So the process is to, 1, accept it. And once you accept it, you look at the apartment, and you have to go through a process of a number of months for HPD to approve you to move into the apartment. Then once they approve you, you're responsible for the move yourself.
Okay, the apartment that's vacated then goes to someone paying a higher rent.
Market rate.
Okay, now the piece that's very important is that the houses were former Mitchell-Lama.
Correct.
And they were subsidized. Then at the end of a particular period of time, that deal with Mitchell-Lama went.
Right.
And for tenants to stay in those apartments, they were given vouchers, Section 8 vouchers from the government, federal government, through to the HPD and you guys. Now,
correct.
You were on Harlem 411 Friday evening, and as you got into this, you as a tenant, and the tenant organization hired a lawyer, there were some discoveries that you made.
Yes, the discoveries were very disturbing. It was things that hadn't dawned on us, but living in Harlem, and we feel that in Harlem, our rent basically doubled when this transition happened to take us out of the Mitchell-Lama. So, for instance, if we were paying $1,200 a month under the Mitchell-Lama program for a 3-bedroom apartment, it went to $2,400 in 1 month's time. So, the grant came in and helped a lot of people's. People did move out, but it helped most of the people stay. Now, what we found is this: they're talking about this budget shortfall. We need to cut $35 million. We're $35 million short. We need to make it up, rather. And we realized there's discrepancies on how much money HPD pays depending upon where you live. And the discrepancy was, one, I'm going to name the specific development in Tribeca named Independence Plaza.
Tribeca is where?
Tribeca is downtown near the film. You know where they have the Tribeca Film Festival, like
Houston Street.
Yes,
Houston Street on the east side.
Yes,
that's Tribeca.
That's Tribeca.
Okay, go ahead.
So, and some of the people from that is in our movement, but we found out, which was shocking to us. We complain about our rents. My rent is $2,400. You know, that's a complaint, and we got back from the residents that, well, a 2-bedroom apartment in Independence Plaza is $6,000 a month, and a 3-bedroom apartment is $9,000 a month. So they're charging $3,000 per bedroom, and some of them said, we pay $800, and Section 8, if it's a 3-bedroom apartment, Section 8 is paying $8,200 a month. So that's, for us though, in our neighborhoods, we pay at least 50% of the rent bill. So if someone's living in a $2,400 apartment, on average they're paying $1,400 and Section 8 is paying $1,000. But in these neighborhoods, they're paying $800 and Section 8 is paying $8,200. So our question immediately was, how come they didn't set a cap on the rents in an effort to save money? And set a cap. If you set a cap and say this is the maximum rent we're going to pay, that means this development doesn't qualify for the voucher program. That's what it would mean. You would save a lot of money. But they're not getting downsize letters. We are.
That development within Tribeca.
Yes.
Now, what politicians have stepped forward to say, hey, this is not right. We're with you. We're going to talk about it in the Senate. In Congress?
Well, I'm going to tell you, we did have Letitia James come to our rally.
Okay.
She came to a rally along with representatives of Carolyn Maloney.
Right.
We did reach out to I believe his name is White. He's the chair of the housing committee. Bruce Wright, that's his name?
No. Housing committee. We're talking about federal,
assemblyman,
local, national,
or councilman.
Okay.
I believe it's his office is right next to Senator Perkins' office.
Oh, Keith Wright.
Keith Wright. Couldn't remember his first name.
Yeah,
Forgive me,
yeah.
Keith. But yeah,
Bruce Wright's son.
Right.
Okay.
So he is setting up meetings. We're setting up meetings with them now. Even Senator Perkins was unaware of what was going on, and I sat in on 2 meetings with him. So there's a lot of politicians who really don't know that this took place.
What about on the federal level?
We have
Maloney is one.
Right. And Maloney is actually helping a lot.
She's going to retire soon.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is our concerns, because the people who may be able to help us is questionable.
Long term,
right? So, like, we were even talking about, reaching out to the long term senator whose name is escaping me right now.
Schumer?
Nope. His name is escaping me. I just can't remember it.
Long term senator, federal.
I believe he was in the news all the time. I can't remember his older gentleman. His father, in front of the state building is his father's. I think.
Oh, you talking about Adam Clayton Powell, the third? Well,
yes. we were talking about him.
So people, look, you gotta be doing some high level connections now. I mean, there are people who are not. They're in the political mix.
Mm-hmm.
We're at the end, and this abbreviated interview, and folks who don't know about Harlem 411 is a talk show here on WHCR. They're on Friday evenings from 6 until 8, and Brother Fahim was on this past Friday, and I heard the interview and it caught my attention, especially the injustice. Let me see if we have a caller who wants to call in. God bless you, on the air.
Yes, I just needed Brother Fahim to know Brother Leroy that I'm all around the dial. This is Brother Smiley. He knows me by my slave name.
Okay. How you doing?
I'm good. All right, I got in touch with you from Friday's interview. You were also on Aisha Seku's show.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
That's it.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
What can people do because there are folks out here. Let me see if we have this. God bless you, on the air.
How you doing, Brother Leroy?
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you a question. Tell me if I'm wrong. The people that would normally fight for the people in that situation now, they're making enough money that they're looking for investments as well. And, black folks stayed together in these enclaves, a while back because it was safety. But now that people are moving out and color's not...
I'm not. You got to ask the question, brother.
All right. What I'm saying is that the people that would normally come in to help is investing in these properties.
Okay, that's another discussion. We're at the end.
You see the sense in it.
Hold tight. But I can't even entertain that because I got another guest coming in at 2:00.
All right. Well, I'm just putting a point out there.
All right. Okay, my brother. And just before we do that, God bless you on the air.
Yes, Lewis Small.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
And we're at the end, Brother Fahim.
Thank you.
Contact information.
They can shoot an email. That's the best way
to reach you.
To reach me. It's at F as in Frank, A as in Apple, H as in Henry, E as in Elephant, M as in Mike. Fahim at AOL.com. I can send you information easily.
Okay. And we're going to have you back. So the organizing is very key for our guests. Hold on a second. God bless you on the air.
Hi.
Miss Joyner?
Yes, this is yes.
Okay, hold on. Okay, hold on. Mr. Small. Right, hold on, because I got to do station identification. I'm doing
Okay.
You're listening to WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have gone to Philadelphia. When I say we've gone to Philadelphia, there's a story emanating out of Philadelphia that caught our attention. All of us are familiar with the unconstitutional stop and searches that have plagued the black communities and the Puerto Rican communities here in New York for since the time of Giuliani. And under this present mayor, the architect of that program is very much in place and planning to do what he has been doing around the country. Well, in Philadelphia, there's a situation that arose that is within the realm of this stop and search. It's when I saw the story, it was just, I believed it because it was there, but it's unbelievable. And we have online the attorney who's representing the family of a young man who was, in effect, brutalized during one of these stop and searches.
I have them on now. Yep, I have them on my phone.
Mr. Joyner's on the phone.
And Veronica Joyner is the principal of the charter school that this young man attends. So we're going to give the mic to Attorney Lewis Small so he can introduce the parties, because the mother is also here with us. And Attorney Lewis Small, thank you for joining us on Harlem Community Radio and setting up this interview.
It's my pleasure. We have with us on the phone the mother of the boy, Darren's mother, Mrs. Ikea Manning, and we have also on the phone Mrs. Veronica Joyner, who's well known, particularly in the Philadelphia area and nationally, with respect to education and civil rights matters, and she is the CAO of the charter school for which Darren attends.
The date.
I might add that this charter school has approximately 1,000 students, and it's in the center city, basically African American students, and 100% graduate, go to college. The only 2% that don't go to trade schools. Darren, the individual involved here, I want to give you a little background. He plays in the basketball team. He's a fine young man. He had just turned 16. He has never been in trouble whatsoever, not in school, but also with respect to the police. And this young individual is highly intelligent, a very laid-back individual, and he makes all A's at the charter school. And Mrs. Joyner could address that, as well as the mother, as to what a fine individual he was. Do you want me to give you some background on the incident?
Let's go to the mother and the date of the incident, how she becomes aware of the incident, and the subsequent taking of Darren to the hospital, and then we'll come back to you and then to Veronica. Mom?
Yes.
Yes, God bless you. Thank you for joining us, ma'am.
Thank you for having me.
And you know, you're a family. You work, and what happens on the day, on the afternoon or the evening that Darren was arrested?
I was at a doctor's appointment, and I got a call from one of the students stating that Darren was being beat up by the cops. And I said, no, you're lying. And he said, no, I'm telling you the truth. The cops are beating Darren up right now as we speak. So I rushed out of the doctor's office, and from there I started calling around to different districts. First I called the coach. The coach was running around just like me, and I started calling the district. I had my mother, she was with me, call the districts, and they was like, we don't have him here. We couldn't find him for a while. So we did find them, and the coach found them actually, and then I met the coach at the police district, and they were very nasty.
What do you mean?
Just they wouldn't answer anything. It was like their demeanor, their face expression, everything towards us asking anything was just like they were very nasty to us. Mm-hmm. There was one officer. I thought that he was black, but I heard that he was Puerto Rican, and I asked him if he would go in the back and tell Darren that I'm not mad at him. Don't worry about me. You're going to be okay, because I know that was my son's concern. The way that the one student got my phone number from Darren was actually trying to call me himself and let me know what was happening. And by the cops being all around him, he gave my phone number to another student that was on a basketball team as well. Mm-hmm. So I knew at that point that he was concerned about me and what I would think about him getting into trouble. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to reassure him while he was in custody that he would be okay. Me. I'm not mad at him or anything. He was more so concerned with me at that time than he was himself. And it bothers me. From there, not being able to talk to him, they had him for 8 hours. After the 8 hours of holding them, they told me first that I couldn't get there from the police station. I would have to pick him up from the youth study center at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I went home. I didn't know what to do. I called around to some police officers that's also my son's coach as well. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that all police officers are bad. Mm-hmm. So I called around, and they made some calls, and then like maybe 11-something at night, I got a call to come and pick Darren up. And when I got the call was like, you can come pick your child up right now. So I said, okay. I hung up, and I rushed down there to get him. And he was so cold because they made him take off the extra clothing that he had on his long johns. They made him take it off. It had no undershirt. All he had on was a regular shirt. Mm-hmm. He said he was cold to the bones and he was hungry. Now, my son complained of being hurt. But he said, Mom, I just want to get something to eat right now. He said, I could deal with the pain. I said, Darren, we have a lot of things that we have to do. And he was like, Mom, I'm fine. Darren was not worried at all about himself. He was worried constantly about me, even though he was in pain. I got him home. But before we even got home, and I picked him up from the police station, they told me that I had to have him at the youth study center at 8 o'clock in the morning. If not, they was going to send officers out to my home to arrest Darren. So when I got him something to eat, it was already late. We didn't get in the house till like almost 1 o'clock in the morning. I had to get him ready for the next day, and there was no time to do anything else. So I wanted him to get some sleep. He did that. We got up. We went to court. From court, they charged him with a felony and a felony 2, and he had to be monitored. He had to have house supervision. He never had that before, so he was kind of upset about that because the weekends now he can't do anything. He had to stay in the house. So he, from there, we took in went to court. From court, we went, the coach took him back to school, and I went to the scene of what happened. Everyone that I came across, I never said this was my child. I asked them, did they see what happened, and did they know anything? And everyone said the same thing. He didn't do anything, and they had all them officers out there for no reason. It was just one little boy, and it was roughing him up. And then one woman started to cry, and I said, that was my son. And she said, you know, whatever you need me to say, I'll say. But everyone is afraid of the police, even though they want to help. But people don't want to get involved because you don't know what's going to happen. They don't know what's going to happen to them. From me going to the scene myself to see what happened, or just to ask questions, just to get an idea, because my son took and told me one thing, doesn't mean, you know, I'm not going to just believe him fully when I don't know the full story, or if he did do anything. So I wanted to get other people's opinions about what happened, because at that point in time, he could have been scared of anything. I mean, I'm not just going to say, okay, well, my child told me this, and this is what I'm going off of. Right. No, I needed to find out, you know, from other people for myself. So when I did that, I went back to the school. I gave them, you know, my statement of what I got from people out on the street. And Ms. Joyner, the CEO of the school, told someone to take him to the nurse. When he came back from the nurse, I was with them as well. They were saying that, you know, well, you want to take him to the hospital? I said, yes, I'm going to take him to the hospital. But the reason why we didn't go to the hospital right away was because they told us that he cannot miss no days in school. So if he can't miss any days, I want to take him to the hospital. But if I take him, I don't know what y'all going to come back at me with, and I don't want my son going away from me, all because I didn't follow your rules. So I took him to school, like they told me to. I don't want my son to be arrested. My son knows nothing about this type of life.
Right.
I didn't raise him like that. I didn't have him in the streets. My son is not street smart. He knows nothing about these things.
Miss Manning, when the nurse told you to take him to the hospital, you kept him in school and you took him after school?
Ms. Julia said to me that we're going to mark him in as present and take him to the hospital, so that's what I did.
Okay. And what happened then?
When we got to the hospital, they checked his head because he said he was hit, and the students also said as well that he was hit over the head with the handcuffs. So they checked his head. He didn't have any bruises or any, you know, cuts. Then they looked at his wrist because he had the handcuffs on him very tight.
Right. They had him on very tight.
And his wrist was swollen, and he had little scrapes and cuts from the from the handcuffs. So they said that wasn't nothing, you know, it was a little minor, just put a little ice on it. So now they send us upstairs for an X-ray because he was complaining about his genitals. So they send him upstairs for the X-ray. And while they were doing the X-ray, the technician was doing it. She was coming across something that she couldn't explain. I was sitting in the chair when I'm going through things and my children is involved or someone hurt them, I try to sleep it away. So I'm sitting in the chair and I'm just trying to not think about it. And I hear this woman like she's having a hard time. So she said, I'll be right back. Let me go and get the doctor. She went and got the doctor. The doctor looked at the ultrasound and the doctor said, you need to file press charges. And I jumped up. I said, no, what's wrong? She said, his genitals was ruptured. And then he had to have emergency surgery.
Wow.
I asked if I could leave the room because I didn't want to see Darren. I didn't want Darren to see me getting upset. Because Darren would tune all of his, whatever he's feeling, he won't think about it and he'll focus on me. And I didn't want that. So when they took him back downstairs in the emergency department, they was prepping him for surgery. and they was telling him the things that can happen, and him being still.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I couldn't get anything from him because my son is so laid back. He doesn't really show emotions too much. You have to really, really get underneath his skin in order for him to show any type of thing. But it's hard. So people get upset with him because he won't respond to anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't take it, so I left out the room. So when I came back in, he said, "Mom, they said I might be still." I said, "Son, don't worry about it. You're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
God have you." And he said, "Mom, are you okay?" Now, my son can take pain. He plays basketball. I have a daughter in college. My daughter rolled her ankles so many times. My daughter was walking around with walking pneumonia. They take the pain. They take it because this is a part of basketball. So they're used to the pain. I'm the one to say, "No, come on, let's go to the doctors. Let's go to the doctors." He did wanted to go, but he was so confused, and I was confused as well. So I know it was harder for him because it happened to him.
Now, Mrs. Manning, they do the operation that day?
Yes. Right after they take and prep him, he had just ate a cheesesteak. In between leaving the courtroom to go into school, Dan had a cheesesteak. So they were saying, we're going to have to put extra tubes down on in case, it comes back up.
Right.
And that was worrying me because I'm thinking, okay, now this is extra things, and can we just wait a couple of hours, for the food to digest? We're like, no, we have to do this right away.
Wow.
He had 5 doctors around him, poking at him.
Wow.
And he's in pain. So it took them some time because they couldn't get a vein to put the IV in. When they got the IV in, they took us upstairs, and the anesthesiologist was talking to him about, what's going to happen, what's going to take place next. And when he told him that he would have to spend the night, my son said, "No, I have a keystone test that I have to take, and I have to go to school." So I said, "Dan, don't worry about the test. You're going to get it." He said, "No, Mom, I want to take my test."
We're going to stop. We're going to stop right there. Stop right there in terms of your narrative. The operation was successful, meaning in terms of their repairing what they could repair at that time.
Yes.
Okay.
What they could repair. Yes.
Now the attorney. I'm sorry. The attorney comes in. Attorney Small comes in at that point in time.
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to segue to the attorney, and then we're going to go to Veronica Joyner in terms of the type of student that Darren is. And Attorney Thomas Small, Lewis Small, you hear about this, your reaction?
Well, my reaction is I'm also a father. I mean, it's outrageous and shocking. And it's just hard to believe that such a situation could occur. And I don't know whether we just dialed in, so I don't know whether you gave your audience any background, but what had happened here is that Darren plays on the basketball team for mathematics, for the Mathematics, Civics, and Science Charter School in Philadelphia. And he had on his way to the basketball game with his teammates. They took a subway up to Broad and Girard, which is a few blocks away, and then they were going to walk about approximately 4 blocks to the school in which they were playing. While he was walking there, 2 white police officers who were in a van see the boys. Some of the boys who were ahead of him ran, and this is natural in the area, and it's recognized because, unfortunately, the police in this particular area have so terrorized the neighborhood that sometimes the kids don't want to be hassled, and they ran. Darren and his friend and another teammate basically ran for just approximately less than half a block, and then Darren stopped. The police officer swung around. The other officer, who was the shotgunner and the passenger, got out and talked to one of the other teammates, and he left him alone because obviously these police, first of all, do not have any cause or any criminal behavior that's going on. They're not looking for a suspect. There's no reports of fighting. There's no reports of vandalism. The boys are out there. It's a very cold day. And The arresting police officer grabs a hold of Darren, immediately assaults him, puts his arm around him, tells him he's under arrest. Darren's carrying a phone in his bag. The boys are trying, along with Darren, to tell him, wait a second, we're on our way to play basketball. Instead, the officer places him under arrest and throws him down on the ground. Another officer hits him over the head with the handcuffs. All the while, Darren is in shock because he can't understand why they're being arrested, because after all, common sense tells you if this officer thought there was anything amiss, he certainly has no cause that there are, but you walk over to an individual, especially a teenager, or anybody else, an adult, and you say, what's going on? And the minute he would get, common sense tells you he wants to get to the game and play with his team, so he would immediately say, like the other officer was told, who left the other teammate alone, hey, I'm on my way to play basketball down the street. Instead, this particular officer just pounces on Darren. He's then arrested, and there are approximately 10 police officers come up on the scene. He's taken over to another squad car, and a female police officer who's on the scene comes over, and as Darren is being searched, although he's been searched before, pats him down, but she grabs his genitals so hard that Darren screams out. I mean, that's heard by a number of people. She then does it again, while all the police officers are particularly laughing, and does it so forcefully that Darren screams again, and she ruptures his testicles. Now, he's then taken away, and he's arrested, and he's charged with assault on the police officer.
Business as usual.
Now, by the way, business as usual, sure. They stop the kid and they find they stop the wrong individual in this case, find nothing on him, they find that he's not committed any crimes, they search him, they find nothing on him, they charge him with assault on the cop. The police officer claims that he was punched 3 times in the chest. Mm-hmm. Of course, he has no injuries, and where there's smoke, there's fire, because Internal Affairs had previously investigated this officer for 2 complaints, which were false arrests, but they cleared him. Now, I can tell you what the law is. This officer had no basis under the Supreme Court, under federal guidelines. As a matter of fact, there is a federal court case in Philadelphia with the police are under certain guidelines. And the best that he was able to do was, if he had a suspicion, was to walk up and question the person. And obviously, Darren is not looking to get into a fight with a police officer. He certainly just wants to go to play basketball. And if common sense tells you that they would have been on their way. And if the officer had any questions whatsoever, he certainly could have checked with the school. And then all he had to do was look at Darren's bag, because Darren had his gym clothes there, or listen to the other boys there. But instead, you know what this officer said when they told him they were going to a game? And these are my teammates. He says, these are nothing but hood rats. Pejorative racial remark.
Mm-hmm. Now, Veronica Joyner.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. Tell us about Darren.
Darren is a very intelligent, well-mannered young man. He's not aggressive at all. And I was very shocked. I had just sent the boys out. It was the coldest day recorded in Philadelphia's history. And the boys were going to a game, so I wanted to make sure that they were warm. So, I keep hats and gloves and scarves. And I made sure that they were all covered. So some of the boys had scarves covering their faces. And they looked suspicious, according to the police officers. And they had just left the school about 15 minutes before I received the call. So I was totally shocked. I was even more shocked after Darian shared with me what happened in terms of the police officer pulling his genitals and then going back a second time until he hears and feels something pop.
Oh, man.
It was the main vein that carried sperm to his private area. The vein was popped.
Man.
And it was clotting. So the doctors had to do an emergency surgery to stop the bleeding.
Man.
Because there was a clot there. And the first time, I don't think she felt she did the job well, so she went back a second time to do the same thing. And as Mr. Small stated, he had already been patted down. So he didn't have any weapons or anything. But he's the type of student that he's very helpful. He'll stay behind in the lunchroom to help clean off tables. And he helps out wherever he's needed. No one has to tell him to do that. In fact, I had a conversation with his mother. She said that he was playing in a basketball game. I believe it was over the summer, and one of the other teammates punched him in the face, and he refused to fight or respond. He said, the referee will eject the other boy. I'm not going to get put out of the game. And then the mother had a conversation with the coach about making him more aggressive on the basketball court. So he's not an aggressive student at all. As I said, very smart and very mannerable and very neat and very helpful. And the school is really, one of the top schools. So you would see Darren always in a tie, a blazer, pants, and shoes.
Now, the school is situated in right in the community where outstanding students aren't. The connotation of outstanding students is not a common thing from the outsider's experience. You follow what I'm saying? In other words, the talent within our community is tremendous if they're in a loving environment. But if they're not in a loving environment, then they're on the corner, they're leaving out of school, etc., male and female.
Yes.
But your school, go ahead.
Yes, our school, we take students from all over the city. We have very high standards and expectations of our students. The behavior, the mannerisms, a part of our curriculum is civics and character building and making our students good citizens.
Attorney Small.
Yes.
What, when we connected with you, you were happy that we were reaching out because the information of this case needs to get out to the general public throughout America. What are the things that we can do here in New York, aside from just being aware of this incident, that would help and assist the family in Philadelphia?
Well, I think, and I want to add one other additional point. This female officer who went over and allegedly patted him down is not permitted to do that under police procedure. A female cannot go over and pat down a male's genitals. Conversely, a male officer cannot do that to a female, particularly where male officers are present. I mean, if she was the only officer present, that's another story.
Right.
Now, what really has to be done with respect to this, and let's think about the example that went out to the community. So boys run and they're afraid of police, then that doesn't make any sense because we need the police to protect us. So the boy that goes over to the police officer, he then gets arrested and beaten up. So what has to be done is to change this culture. And it hasn't changed in Philadelphia for years. So that, in my opinion, the federal authorities have to come in. I think it's clearly not only an illegal stop and frisk, particularly under the circumstances and under the Supreme Court law and under the federal court settlement that was made with the city of Philadelphia, but it's much more than that. It's an overt racial act by this particular officer. And I might say that the federal office, there's this code of silence in the police, and if the federal authorities would come in, and that's what we're looking for, and investigate this matter, I believe the code of silence, at least as to the officers that were there and standing around, they would certainly tell the FBI the truth. So that, what we're looking for is a broader picture in the sense, of course, we want to help Darren and everything else, but we want to stop this. And after all, the police should want to do this too, because the problem is, if you looked at the video, there's dozens of witnesses out there, and yet everybody's afraid to come forward because they're afraid of the police. So that in reality, it would help everybody. It would help the police. It would help the city. So there are many good police officers, as Mrs. Manning has said, but there are some bad ones, and we have to ferret out the bad ones.
Attorney Small, what has been the occurrence of people stepping forth and saying, either clandestinely or word getting to you or Mrs. Manning or to Mrs. Joyner, that these guys have been doing this kind of thing, that is brutalizing individuals during the stop and search? Has that surfaced at all?
Yes, I did get one phone call from a man who called me and told me that his friend had been arrested by this female officer in the same district, and I believe it's the same officer because he described her to a T as to what as to what I've received with respect to a description, and he said his friend happens to be an African, and he's presently under arrest. But this same female police officer, when she arrested him, squeezed his testicles also so that he was screaming.
Wow.
So, you know, I don't believe for 1 second that this was the first occurrence. It's just the first occurrence where she did it too hard and she's being caught. And that police officer has clearly committed a sexual assault upon a minor. And should not only should not be a police officer, but should be prosecuted. The first police officer who did the arrest has filed a false police report and assaulted Darren. And he should be arrested also, and committed perjury by his submitting a false charge in an affidavit.
Before we,
so there's been tons of people out there. We're trying to get the message out, but people are afraid to come forward. I mean, I've sent a detective out, and as Mrs. Manning has said, and people are just afraid. Store owners say, "Hey, the police will come in and shut us down," and what have you.
It's amazing.
In this particular district, the police have terrorized the people there. According to them, I'll tell you one of the remarks of the police officers by the police in response to this. One of the reporters' questions was, "Well, if we found guns on them, you know, they'd all be applauding us."
And that's what they say here in New York. That's exactly the same line that's run in New York City. The same line. And it's a cover. The fact of good police and bad police is one thing, but there's another thing that has not been touched on in any of the dialogue, not yours, but any of the dialogue that I hear. See, I hear retraining. They need to be retrained here in New York. And New York is supposed to have the best police force in the world, yet they need to be retrained when it comes to brutalization. But the one thing that is not said is individuals who are haters being on these police forces. There used to be the Ku Klux Klan, and they would come out with their cone heads and that sort of thing and wear robes, but they have gone underground. They now wear shirt and tie. They now wear uniforms. And those are the individuals who are getting by the so-called psychological exam here in New York. I don't know about Philadelphia. They're getting by the exam, and they're coming into the community and causing mayhem. They come from communities upstate and out on Long Island, and they're haters. They actually, you know, it's all right, but don't bring that stuff where you take license to brutalize people. And the freedom that this lady showed to brutalize Darren is that speaks more. Well, we're at the end. Mrs. Manning, I'd like for you to just give us some parting words based on what you've learned from this situation. What you're learning, you haven't learned. I mean, this is a continuing situation.
Well, what I have learned is that now I have to step back and redirect my thoughts and the way I teach my children and how to protect themselves out here in the streets. I never thought about teaching my children to protect themselves from the cops. I've never experienced it before, even though it's been out there, but I felt as though if I teach my children to do the right thing, and they're not out there robbing and stealing, then they will be okay by the police officers of Philadelphia. I was more concerned with just the people walking the streets.
Mm-hmm.
I know that now I have to teach him to be aware of everyone, how to handle himself while he's out there in the streets. I'm still confused by this whole thing. I feel like I'm dreaming.
Yes, ma'am.
I can't do this alone. I know I need help.
Right.
This has really been so depressing. I mean, I had lost 15 pounds. I can't eat. It's hard for me to sleep. It's hard for Darren to sleep. He don't want to eat. He's worried about me as well as what's going to happen with his life in the future, from having children to his education. And that has really, really taken a toll on me. That I'm really angry with the Philadelphia Police Department, because here it is. We tried to do with what Mayor Nutter says, do you know where your children are?
Yeah.
Do you know what's going on? I'm doing all of those things.
Wow.
And yet and still, I had to worry now if my son will be able to have children or have an education.
Well, let's say,
I never thought it'd get to that.
Sister Manning, let us say this, that, and I'm not saying it from a cliche standpoint, for those in the listening audience who believe in prayer, we have to send and extend our prayer to the family, Mrs. Manning and her son and her daughter and all the other family members, and also the community members there, and also prayers for guidance and perseverance with the lawyer, because when you take on this kind of case against the New York City police or the Philadelphia police or Chicago police, it's not loved by a lot of folks who are on the opposite side. And Mrs. Joyner, we want to thank you very much for your dedication to educating children in the inner city of Philadelphia and bringing out the very best that all of our children have, but don't have the opportunity to demonstrate. And we will be reaching out to you for a separate interview as to your approach to educating the children in your school. Attorney Thomas. All right, Attorney Thomas. Small. I keep saying Thomas. I'm sorry. Lewis Small. Attorney Lewis Small, I want to thank you very, very much for arranging this interview, and we pray that other talk shows here in New York take the opportunity to reach out for you also, and our prayers go with all of you. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having us on so that we could let this get out to the public. All right, thank you.
God bless you all.
Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's a story out of Philadelphia. You go into Google and you put in teenager brutalized by teenager genitals brutalized by Philadelphia police, and the information on the stories and coverage should come up. God bless you on the air.
Hi, how you doing, Mr. Leroy? This is Brother Muhammad.
Brother Muhammad, we're gonna do 5 minutes. I apologize. Our previous interview went further than we had planned or scheduled. Ladies and gentlemen, in the Harlem community and communities throughout New York City, you see vendors on the street, and 125th Street is famous for the vendors, the black vendors, the African vendors who have made a living the hard way, and that is facing the elements and persevering in light of summonses and the so-called power structure. That's my term, for lack of a better phrase, the so-called power structure wanting, and Negroes have power structure. You know, what they do is they want these vendors off the street because they're an embarrassment. I'm going back in history, okay, my experience. Other folks are coming in the community and you guys are blocking the sidewalks and all of that. But the vendors are there. And Brother Muhammad is one of those vendors, and he has a very interesting situation to share with us, and we're going to do that in about 4 minutes. Brother Muhammad, God bless you. Thank you for joining us. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah. How you doing, brother?
Doing very well. I'm doing very well.
And I've been knowing you for years since, the Nation of Islam was on Fifth Avenue. You know, we've been struggling on Harlem for over at least 27 years since I came in from Philadelphia, you know.
Yes, sir.
And I want to let people know that vending, or New York City vendors, has been in history since the 1930s, since Macy's, Bloomingdale, Fifth Avenue, all started from the streets of New York City. So vending has a strong history. Harlem has a strong history of vendors when people from down south was coming and support us every other week, every weekend. At the time when Giuliani took us off the streets the first time, we fought back. I was one of them who got arrested on the streets of Harlem when Giuliani mandated for us to get off the streets. He had violated one of our civil rights. And now it's starting to get really hectic and corporate is in our community now. Unfortunately, I wanted to tell you that, tell the people of New York City that while corporate's in our community, we have to fight back. Recently, Apollo Theater and Red Lobster, Apollo owns Red Lobster now. They own the building. So they recently told the police, the 28th Command, Lieutenant Duran, for me to move from one side to the other side. And I wasn't in no type of violations. So now they violated one of my civil rights and my human rights, because by federal law, you have rights to make a living.
And give us the parameters in which a vendor works to be within the law. You know, in terms of the distance from the sidewalk, etc.
Right, you have to be 15 feet from the fire hydrant, and you cannot be in no type of doorway. That's a violation. I was not in no type of doorway. I was 17 feet from the fire hydrant, and my location was right next to Apollo. They took the sign from Nat King Cole Walk up there on the pole. They took that down. So they don't want us, black vendors, to know our history. They don't want nobody to know the history of vending on 125th Street. They're trying to eliminate us now. Recently, I had talked to the Senator Perkins in the state office building last Wednesday, and he told me that the Christian seafood spot right there between the state building and Lenox Avenue, and then the African Brother, and then Golden Crust, they offered them $350,000 to move out.
A piece or collectively?
Yes, they moving us out. They trying to
no. The question
right
is
now it's best for us to come together.
Okay.
The street vendors to put a class action suit against these corporatists. Like, they coming in our community and taking over, and it's not right. We made Harlem. You know, I was in the newspaper of the Daily News. Remember, I was telling you that before, right?
Right. I'm looking at the article, and let me see. Give the people. Oh, okay. Here we go. The article, for folks who want to look it up, it says Red Lobster set to make Harlem debut next to Apollo Theater, and that's dated January 20. No, that's when I pulled it. It ran last year in October 5, 2013, and you're interviewed in that article. And just give us a brief on what you said. I'm looking at the article right here.
What I said, that as black vendors, as Mark, I used to work in the Mark 125 for 14 years with the legendary Blue selling jewelry. Blue had taught me how to make jewelry when I came out of college, when I came out of art school out of Philadelphia, and worked at the Express, Limited Express. I was working at both jobs, but I was also a street vendor with Muhammad, who was making the crowns back in the days for the dreadlocks. And I started vending with Muhammad, and then I learned how to vend it for myself. I always had the pictures that I used to sell. You know, I used to sell Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Farrakhan pictures when I first started vending on 125th Street. By you having the rights to sell, you need a tax ID or a general vendor's license. But if you're selling pictures and magazines and T-shirts with art, you don't need a license.
That's artwork. That's artwork.
Because it falls under the guidelines of the federal law. Anything dealing with art, you don't need no license. So now the police and administration of administration of consumer affairs knows this, and they give us the guidelines that we can sell. What can we sell and what can we not sell? You understand? So now, what my point is that now these people from corporative is coming in our community, wiping out now. You see in Harlem that they building everything now in Harlem. On Lenox Avenue, they're destroying the buildings. They made a lot there. There's a big lot there now, and they're building Whole Foods. And then they're supposed to be building a mall on the other side. And they're supposed to be knocking down the Mark 125 and making Macy's. So now it's really showing that they're going to try to use some type of vending zone. Or they're going to take us off the streets, or they're going to give us some type of zone. So I talked to the senator that it's best for us to put in a class action suit to stop this when they're going to try to take us off the street. You know what I mean? And it's a shame that we are getting driven out of our own community. And we made Harlem, like within the newspaper clip, and I spoke about how they fluctuating and how they robbing the black people of our history. Because Harlem has a history of not just street vendors, but musicians, actors, rappers. Everybody comes to Harlem. Everybody comes to Harlem. You understand? And what I spoke about is that, you know, we made Harlem. The black people of New York
Right.
made Harlem.
Right.
Even people from Brooklyn comes to Harlem and vendors.
Right.
Even people from the Bronx come to Harlem and vendors. You understand where I'm coming from? The
Brother
black
Muhammad.
people made Harlem.
Brother
and now
Muhammad.
they're taking it away from.
Brother Muhammad, hold on. You're now going to be based where? On 125th Street, so folks who want to support and buy your items can know exactly where you are. Where are you going to be?
Well, since the situation took place with Apollo and Red Lobster, I'm not going to try to make it difficult for me.
Right.
I'm going to move across the street, directly across the street from Apollo, and you can catch me there. And if anybody needs any information about vending, they can come and see me on 125th Street, and then they can call me at 718-607-0549. That's my number. And Brother Leroy, I really appreciate you putting me on the air because my community of Harlem loves me, man, and I cried in front of you, my brother, and I told you that I love my black people.
Yes, sir.
You know, I love my people of the Nation of Islam, the Israelites brothers, the dreadlocks, the dreads, the Belizean families, all the people in Harlem are black people. I love all my black people. We need to come together as a whole because these politicians are getting paid off to keep quiet and to try to keep us quiet.
Now, Muhammad, give your telephone number again because our next guest is on the line. Give your telephone number again.
My number is 718, area code 718-607-0549.
Give it one more time.
718-607-0549.
0549.
Yes.
Okay.
718-607-0549.
All right, my brother. Thank you very much for joining us and sharing with us.
I appreciate what you did for me, and may Allah bless you.
All right.
May Allah bless all of us in Harlem, and may Allah give us the strength, the victorious over these people who's coming in our community and taking over.
All right. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
And our next guest is on the line, and thank you for your patience, Brother Dennis Speed. God bless you.
Hello, sir. How are you today?
I'm excellent, and by the grace of God, we are going to have 12 minutes of some dynamite information coming from you. You and your wife and others went to Boston recently, and share with us the experience as it relates to the school, what you learned about one school compared to another school.
Well, let me put this in context. My wife was there to assist our organization. This is the LaRouche Political Action Committee and its cultural organization, which is called the Schiller Institute. What we were doing was we were doing a musical performance at a cathedral up there, the Cathedral of the Holy Cross, to commemorate the 50th anniversary of what's called a Requiem High Mass for JFK, for John Fitzgerald Kennedy. His wife had requested this 50 years ago, and we were reproducing that same action with a performance of Mozart's Requiem, which was done 50 years ago. That's why we were there. In the course of the organizing for that, what happened was that my wife, Lynn, spoke with the principal of a school in the immediate vicinity of that church. And this church is sort of contiguous to Roxbury, not right in Roxbury, but contiguous. So the school has a largely minority population. There's about 300 people going to it, and the principal said to her that she was very proud because out of the approximately 135 or so males in the school, only one of them was on a prescription medication, a Ritalin-style medication. But then the teacher went on to say that out of another school, where which is very close by, essentially a few blocks away, similar middle school, meaning 6th, 7th, 8th grade, that out of the approximately 150 males at that school, 131 of them were on medications. Now that was sort of that was the particulars. But what that is an indicator of is what it is I'm going to speak about. And I think that's important. As people know from the show, me being on, I'm with Executive Intelligence Review in Linden LaRouche. And people know, you've heard me, I'm sure, or you haven't heard me, let me just say, we have been severely critical of Barack Obama, the Barack Obama administration, but only because it is itself a subset of the Bush administration, which was itself a subset of something bigger. And all I want to talk about in relationship, frankly, to what I heard, the last part of what I heard the previous speaker, let me be very clear. The policy is depopulation. Depopulation of black, brown, and yellow people across the globe. This policy is, and the policy makers who behind the policy allowed Barack Obama to become president, in fact, promoted his presidency, but only from the standpoint that he could implement, or that presidency could also implement elements of a policy that way preceded it. It was in the Bush administration. It was back in the Nixon administration. And so the concept of what we're seeing in that school in Boston shows you the way in which the depopulation strategy is actually going to be implemented. You target African American and other minority children from essentially either birth or very early age. You place them on various medications and so on. You, of course, have their records, both medical and educational records. You track them, and you also track them with respect to the prison industrial complex and many other things. So this is the overall policy, and we saw a small echo of it in this case in Boston.
Now, when we look at the depopulation program that has been envisioned and set in place by the ruling elite, my term, individuals who make up a smaller percentage of the population than the majority, there is the driving force of that can be traced where? Where would you trace it to Nazi Germany? Would you trace it to England? Would you trace it to America? The three of them. How do you trace that?
All right. Well, here's a name that people should take down: David Attenborough, Attenboroughh. You know, people may have heard Sir Richard Attenborough, who's a film director that made Gandhi. Okay, this is his brother, David Attenborough. He's also a Sir. You know, he's a nobleman in England. All right? And there was an article that the London Telegraph came out with called "Humans Are a Plague on the Earth." And so then they quote this Sir David Attenborough, and this is from, I think his quotes were about 2011, but they actually reproduced the article, came up in January of last year. And here's what he had to say. So this is recent. This is the last 2 years, all right? He said, "We are a plague on the earth. It's coming home to roost over the next 50 years or so. It's not just climate change, it's sheer space. Places to grow food for this enormous horde." And he goes on. This is all quotes now. "We keep putting on programs about famine in Ethiopia. That's what's happening. Too many people there. They can't support themselves. And it's not an inhuman thing to say. It's the case. Until humanity manages to sort itself out and get a coordinated view about the planet, it's going to get worse and worse." So now, who I'm talking about, I don't have a problem naming. So Sir David Attenborough is one of these people. Why I point him out, you know, we talk about Britain and these other British Empire. You know, we always talk about that. And let me just say, when I say empire, people have to understand an emperor is not a king or a queen. You have a system of kings and queens, but the person that runs all the kingdoms, the person in charge of administrating all the kingdoms and queenships and so on, is the emperor. And so when you talk about an empire, within that empire, you have different kings and so forth and so on. But those kings don't have ultimate power. It's the emperor, and the emperor represents a chosen individual to implement a policy of a global domination, not one part of the globe. So, yes, it's the Queen of England in particular. She gave a speech in November or October of 2009. I'm not sure which month, but was the speech she gave to the fall meeting of the Commonwealth nations, which is about 25% of all the countries in the world. 25% of the population in all the countries in the world. And in that speech, she was saying, well, you know, the global warming question is a convenient means for us to point out that population and population control is really what it's all about. So this is what I'm talking about, and you see this reflected in every policy in the United States, including in the Obama administration, which really is not the presidency. Obama really is not the president of the United States, just as George W. Bush before him is not the president, was not the president.
Before we leave out, there are two things on the Boston piece you spoke about. Can you give us in 2 minutes the sequester? I'm gonna call it scheme because that's the kind of connotation you put to it. But it's my word. The sequestering thing. What's that all about?
Well, let me give people two other references that they can get from YouTube and from the internet and so on. Look up an interview with Mike Wallace and Aldous Huxley. Aldous Huxley, the author of Brave New World. The interview was done in 1958. Look that up. And then look for another interview which was done by Huxley in 1962. I think it was University of California, I believe. Both of these are on YouTube. The first interview with Wallace is a video. The second interview is an audio. Because in those two, what happens is that Huxley, particularly in the 1962 one, talks about how you use drug policy for the purpose of population control. So that's all in there. So people should just go to that reference. You wanted to know about sequester, so let me just say the following. You must use economic policy to implement population policy. So just as the previous guest was talking about the taking down of Harlem, and what's happening is that Harlem is being depopulated is what's happening. Right? Depopulated of black people, but depopulated, period. So the sequester is used to begin the process of implementing policies that end up in depopulation. If many people get thrown off medical care under the auspices of the Affordable Care Act, how does that work? You don't have hospitals in the Affordable Care Act, if you notice. There's no provisions for doctors and nurses. It's an insurance scheme. So what you're doing by means of something like that, that's not sequester, but that's another way of looking at how you do it. It's called triage. And sequester is a form of triage. You have three categories. That's why it says triage, three. You have the healthy and those we're going to maintain. Then you have the group that we are going to let go. Absolutely. And then you have a group in between, which we haven't made choices about. That used to be called in this country the middle class, and now the middle class is finding out that they're actually part of the group that they're going to let go as well. And so sequester and the medical policy and other policies are all part of a triage of the population, because that's how you have to do depopulation in a country like the United States.
Okay, what I'm hearing you say, the sequester thing is a soft way of easing the quote safety nets away from people. Sequester, they can do it under the guise of, hey, bipartisan agreement on this, that, and the other. But sequester is a game.
It's a moonwalk.
Okay.
It's just like I say, Affordable Care Act, but then what's happening is I don't have hospitals. So it looks like I'm going forward, but I'm going backward.
All right. Brother Dennis Speed, how do people connect with you?
Website's the best. Also, you can check me out. I have a Facebook thing up there. Just look Dennis Speed, and you'll see Facebook. You can get me there. Otherwise, the LaRouche Political Action Committee. Check out that website. And then, Brother Leroy, if we can, we should just have another time where we can go into some of these issues at more depth. But I want people to check those population control references out. Look up that David Attenborough guy, and look at those YouTube pieces I said. Brother
Dennis Speed of the Lyndon LaRouche Party, I want to thank you very much for joining us. God bless you and your family, my brother.
Thank you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to WHCR. Stay tuned for Sister Stephanie. I'm doing a big event this coming Thursday. It's Behind the Bench, program put on by Cornelius Ricks. Please do consider attending. Pay attention to this announcement. God bless you all with a wonderful day. Tomorrow morning, we have a bona fide black scientist on the show who came out of a ADD category to become a fantastic scientist when he changed schools. God bless you. Peace.
What? Huh? I didn't know. What? I'm just going across the street. Shut your mouth. Oh, no. What I do? Turn around. Put your hands behind your back. Let's go.
A jury of your peers having found you guilty. 10 years.
What? Come on. Get in that cell, nigga. God.
Unconstitutional stop, search, wrongful arrests happen every day. The Community Law Library of Harlem presents behind-the-bench forums for youth and adults to reduce wrongful convictions. Thursday, January 30th, Minister Abdul Hafiz Muhammad, the New York representative of the Minister Louis Farrakhan, will speak at the first 2014 Behind-the-Bench Forum at the Harlem Branch Library, 9 West 124th Street, between 5th and Malcolm X Boulevard, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Free admission for a community discussion on the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's economic blueprint to end poverty and powerlessness among black people. Thursday, January 30th, 5 p.m. sharp. Harlem Branch Library, 9 West 124th Street, across from Marcus Garvey Park. For information, 347-413-2774. 347-413-2774. Brother Leroy of WHCR is the moderator.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.